Hello, everybody. Welcome. I think it was about 2 years ago that I first encountered Dr. Ammon Hillman on Danny Jones's podcast, his first discussion with Ammon. And I had never encountered anything quite like that. I think few people have. Ammon's scholarship, his unique perspectival passion and concerns, his deep research into Greek Polypharmacy, Medea, the origins of medicine, the Medusae, the incredible and provocative power of the feminine and women in the ancient world, their association with poisons, medicine, the mysteries, the purging of our human layer, right? And what lies within and beyond that layer were astonishing to me and remain that way to this day. I want to be clear, I'm not here to adjudicate Ammon's work or his statements. Rather, I find him a fascinating and brilliant provocateur, a rhapsode in the ancient Greek tradition, a theatrical force for insight and the shattering of the gate-kept narratives that have infested the academy for so long. These narratives are inhibiting and stunting our capacity to understand nature, origin, history, archaeology, right? And many brilliant minds are working against these narratives and punching at that membrane to break through it and bring us new insights about the nature of nature, our human experience, our souls, our spirits, the world of metaphysics, deep dives into linguistics and human cognition. And I'm fascinated by all of these people. So after encountering Ammon, I did a deep dive into his history and thought and wrote an essay called Ammon Hillman is Unstoppable. And my intent was to acquire his attention so that I might have the privilege of doing an interview with him, which I eventually did. And that first interview was meant as a kind of casual, let's get to know each other discussion. And I'd hoped to do much deeper dives in the near future. However, it became difficult to acquire his attention after that interview, and I had concerns about that. It turns out that Danny had feelings about my things that I said in my essay, and felt that they were not, how should we put this, celebratory. And I want to be clear about something. Danny's work is amazing. He has given me and millions of others doorways into some of the most provocative, intelligent, brilliant minds that I have ever encountered. So I love his work. He is a force for learning and discovery, and for the penetration of these gate-kept narratives. So I absolutely celebrate that. Apparently what happened is that Danny had asked Ammon not to do further work with me. And due to their friendship and work together, Ammon went along with that. Recently, there's been a little conflict, a little might be an understatement, between Danny and Ammon, and that's between them. I'm not here to comment on or pursue that issue. Yeah, there's just so much here that it's hard to introduce it well. But I got in contact with Ammon again recently, and I'm hoping to do another essay. We're putting together some material for that. And just to make something really clear here, Ammon is a non-ordinary phenomenon on legs. And I am fascinated with unusually minded folks, and particularly people who can show us a new picture or a new image, a new dream of our origins, our natures, the origins of our civilizations and cultures, the meaning of democracy, where did medicine come from, the role of women in our history. I mean, there's two kinds of people on earth, women and their children, right? Um, and problems in the forces that produce colonization, genocide, ideological gatekeeping, and a variety of other issues that we face. Before I get started, I just want to be really clear about one more thing. Chewy, Ammon's assistant, is an artistic force of nature and has contributed so much to Ammon's work and his presentations and his spirit. So I want to celebrate Chewy before we begin today. I hope you'll enjoy this talk. We had a little bit of lighting issues. Please bear with that. Hopefully in the future we can resolve that matter. It was just a circumstantial situation this time. Let's go. So, Ammon, it's been almost 2 years, I think, since our first interview. So grateful to see you today and to have this time together. I want to just take a moment to honor the ancients, the mothers, the women, the muses, the sources of medicine and wisdom, just in my heart, with my whole spirit, remembering with reverence all those beautiful and brilliant beings.
Heck yeah, love it. That's sexy, isn't it?
Very. So before, I mean, I have a million questions I have prepared, probably more than for any other interview. We'll see
Okay.
what we're able to get to.
Okay, I will be brief.
Right on. No, I mean, be however you want to be, brother. What has been on your mind and heart lately? Is there anything that you would like to speak to as we begin?
Yeah, getting out the Antichrist, taking the message to the people that in a world where Jesus was arrested in a public park with a naked kid, we think we should say Hail Satan because we need to expose what is going on in the world. I have a real strong desire to begin to free people. You know, we've been centuries under the oppression of monism,
Mhm.
and we weren't always that way. And there have been short periods when Renaissance has taken root, and we've almost broken through as a planet. And we have a chance now to do that like we've never had. And the sciences that are coming forward, the language that is coming forward, people are catching up, and this is a great opportunity to free the world.
It is as if, in many aspects of modernity, there's a bunch of gatekeeping. There are a lot of lies about history, about archaeology, about religion. And on the other hand, from the lies, it's almost like there's a three-pronged problem, right? So you have the lies, then you have the commodity culture that commodifies spirituality, wisdom, magic, and so forth. It's kind of like selling it at the marketplace, the sort of the dark side of what we might call woo culture, right? And then you have the spirits of origin themselves as embodied in our own souls and minds and beings and the urgencies that we bring to our birth and our incarnation, right? And the membrane of the gate kept lies is getting thin.
Yeah.
And you've been punching at that membrane like somebody trying to be born, right? Like somebody trying to give birth to a new world, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah, well said, well said.
And I recognize that about you. Um, you know, many people, and I'm not terribly concerned with things like what do most people think, right? That's like the least common denominator of anything valuable most of the time, right? But you're probably the most infamous classicist that has ever had legs. What?
Oh, that makes me feel so good. Thank you for thank you for saying that. Because they need it. I interrupted you. What is your question?
All right. So, what is your mission?
Yeah, my mission is to defend that history that you just said is being lied about or covered up or manipulated, because that's our reality as a people, as a planet. That's our reality. So I consider that protecting that reality of our existence as mortal humans, passing in and out of being, right? Um, I consider that as our inheritance, that reality that we are, um, that we are a people who would attempt to throw off the yoke of a false history. That to me sounds most excellent. And that's the kind of world that I want to live in. And the way that we can do that now is simply through the language. I woke up, Darren. I woke up in a world that had no knowledge of what it was claiming to believe, what it was claiming to trust in, what it was claiming to live by. It had no knowledge of it. There was a point in my life where I woke up and took a breath and said, "Oh my God, none of these people, not the religious scholars, not the evangelicals, Catholics, none of these fucking people has ever actually read the book that they are using to do the plethora of ill that they're contaminating the world with. This is real old style monism. And it's the power of monism that we can break now. We can do it with the language. One simple question will kill them, Darren. What is Christing? What is Christing? I'm a little bit, the reason I didn't give you an interview before, because you requested it several times. And the reason that I didn't was because Danny Jones had asked me not to,
Hmm.
because you were a little bit insulting. You were a little bit insulting. And so, despite the fact that you managed to capture things personally, I accepted what Danny asked and did it, right? So it's only now that I'm bringing you um, kind of the follow up to what you started, which was a hardcore analysis of what's really going on, right? Through Christing, we can destroy Christianity.
How ironic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, apparently, nearly no one understood, and very few people believe what you have brought to us about this. And most of them are very concerned about adjudicating what they see as your claims, right? They want to adjudicate your claims. They want the facts and they want the data. They want the numbers. They want to do an empirical analysis of things that you have spoken, right? Which uh, empiricism is profound, useful, and interesting, except when it rises above the capacity for insight, for imagination, for understanding, for awareness.
The thing is, they're going to catch me in the truth, in the reality. See, that's the game. As long as all my sources are saying exactly what I'm saying, which is shocking. What I'm claiming is shocking. And yes, it's novel. Nobody has claimed this. And oh, God, we can't, all the people are freaking out. He's demon possessed, right? Oh God, the people on that side, that's how they'll solve the equation, by just throwing some demon possession there. He's demon possessed. Great. Great. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you don't know what a Christ is. I have been there. I can show you in the data what a Christ is. And it is a dirty, rotten act for which you can get crucified if you are living within the confines of the Roman Empire.
Mm.
So the reality that I have to give people is so strikingly liberating that it's number one. That's our number one mission. Show them what a Christ is, right? When you can handle their texts better than they can, think about that for a minute. They know that. It's why a guy like Cliff Knechtle or Cliff Knechtle, I can't say his last name. It's why he won't come and talk in a large public venue with on a show with me about the Bible, because he knows he has not actually read it. None of these people have actually read the Bible, from the most religious, from the goddamn Pope, all the way down through the preachers, if you're not Catholic, through the preachers and the fucking apostle, goddamn prophets and all that bullshit. Not a single fucking one of them has read the Bible. And I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that because even the Bible scholars don't actually read Greek.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So we've got
language.
them. We've got them. This is checkmate, right? It's just got to play out. We just have to play out and bring them the Antichrist.
So there's an implication here, which is if Christing is an anointing with complex polypharmacological drugs that include, substances from human bodies, from animals, from plants, then what is anti-Christing?
Yeah. What we have is a system that I've stumbled on years and years ago of dote and antidote.
Hmm?
And even when you say Christing, we still don't have it, what it is. We still don't. We're still not there yet. If you think it's anointing, it's not. It is the application of a pharmaceutically produced substance. It is part of the industry of drugs, drug manufacture, drug trade, drug use, prescriptions, doctors talking about the drugs you should go to the marketplace and get for whatever problem, all the way from those doctors. Christing goes all the way from those doctors to what do I Christ my wood with to preserve it from corruption? Well,
Mm.
those same industries are producing all of those drugs,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
People don't understand antiquity. If I'm a dude who needs to go somewhere and I've got to be on a boat, I am going to have nothing to do with the chemicals that were produced to waterproof that ship.
Right.
There are industries by the time of the first century. There are industries. There's manufacturing of dyes in the same discipline they call Pharmakeia.
Mm.
The First Baptists are all what you would call witches because you can't translate this fucking Greek properly. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
All
Sorry,
right.
I'm gonna tear. Get fire
No,
another question.
no, let's tear it up, man. I'm all in. It occurred to me when thinking about these matters very deeply, and part of why I became interested in you is that, so first of all, I want to be clear about something. I'm not trying to adjudicate what you say, right? I'm not sitting here going, is this the truth? Is he making this up? Has he misread the text? Is he projecting certain meanings of medical terms over the entire space of the use of this word? I'm not trying, I have very little interest in that, right? You are a walking imposition of astonishing knowledge, history, perspective, and spirit. And that imposition cuts through things in ways that I have never encountered before. You made me see things about the ancient women, the origins of medicine, which gender is actually powerful, and it ain't the boys, just to be clear here, right? There are two kinds of people on earth, women and their children, right? So like
Yeah, right.
um your visions of the Medusae were crucial, just staggeringly wrecked my mind, right? And so in a way, you are a walking invocation, right? When you speak, it is rhapsodic. There's incredible enthusiasm. You are furious and you are vicious with your enemies, generally, or those who speak against you, right? But primarily, you shone a light on aspects of our origin, history, and humanity that was unlike anything I'd encountered. And there were features of that that I drank up. Um, and also that I recognized from some of my own experiences, some of which are literally too dangerous to speak of at all. Like I just would not speak of them. Ordinary moderns would not understand. You don't care. You're like, the moderns aren't going to get this. They're going to attack me. So what? Let's go.
Right, right, exactly. I mean,
Um,
you have to be, right? I mean, how could you be anything else, right? Because look at what's coming at you. You know what I mean? It's like it's ignorance, right? And ignorance is not going to win. Beauty's going to win out. So that force that you're talking about, the muse herself is writing this goddamn program. And if you don't ride that wave of knowledge, you're going to end up not knowing who the fuck you are. And
yes.
that doesn't sound like it's much of a problem to anybody. When I first heard that was on the Temple of Apollo, the big famous Temple of Apollo, Delphi. Oh God, I thought that's not that important of a. I don't know, just doesn't strike me. And I've lived my entire um, adult life learning the lesson of why that was so important. So there's a lot. And one of the things, Darren, I want to acknowledge is that people are writing me on a daily basis, telling me how things have transformed around them with their introduction to the muse, with their, the just like you're describing. And to me, that's the most beautiful reason that you can't stop when they're coming at you. You can't stop. You got to push them all the way, or you're never going to be free, And I'm hoping that the music that is coming out now, I'm hoping that that's going to help rip a hole in that ceiling. You know what I mean?
I just want to circle back briefly to something. So I wrote that essay specifically to get your attention, right? So
Fantastic, you did.
that was a plan, right? And
You
I
know
wanted,
why though? You know why it got my attention? It's
mm,
because I know who I am, right? And a lot of people are saying a lot of stuff. A
yeah,
lot of it doesn't sound so good. You know what I mean? Some of it sounds quite honestly just nuts. And that kind of stuff I laugh at. Right. And some of it's hurtful. It hurts a little bit. Ugh, it stings a little bit, right? And some of it's complimentary. But people are writing all that stuff out there. You nailed the reason that your article did catch my attention was because as Ammon myself, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's why I wanted to do a second article with you, and Danny Jones said, please don't. And I didn't. And I'm wondering now, I understand why he didn't want me to, because you may have nailed both of us. You know what I mean? So, but hey, hindsight, Darren, what can we do? Visions. We got to have visions.
Well, when we get insight from our past and our history, we must use it medicinally. We must make the best and most profound medicine of it that we possibly can, right? Otherwise, we will fossilize inside ourselves, you know? I just want to say something about the problem with Danny briefly. So, first of all, I love Danny's show. He has introduced me to so many amazing minds. And I just want to take a moment to sing the praises of that briefly, right? He has done astonishing work, and I respect and admire that. It was never my intention to insult him. Mostly what I was doing was echoing what he said when he introduced his first interview with you, which is, I don't know what's going on with this, folks. This is like above my pay grade, right? This is a phrase he sometimes uses. So just to be clear, I love his work. I think he's an amazing catalyst for learning and new ways of seeing, and that's really what I'm up for. I never meant to insult him. I'm sorry if he took it that way. And I certainly don't need to say anything about yeah, I'll just leave that whole topic aside. So let's see here. It looks to me like what we call civilization is falling apart. What do you think? Is this shit gonna last?
I didn't see children being intentionally, I didn't see entire countries being walled up and kids starved and genocide when I was growing up in southern Arizona in the 70s. It wasn't a part of our culture. And I mean, the world culture. And I think old people like us need to let people know, hey, you're heading down, you're going somewhere bad, because I saw it when it was good. I saw it when it was good, and some people say it wasn't even good then, but it was non-genocidal. Are we at the end? Oh God, I can see it getting worse fast, can't you?
Yeah, me too. The absolute atrocities that have taken place in Palestine and Gaza, for which a specific nation is primarily responsible. And I want to be clear about something here. If I say that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, I do not mean Jewish persons are bad people or that they're doing the genocide. Israel is a construct, it seems to me, and the construct is guilty of the genocide. Many, many of the people would never agree with something like that.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I think right now what you've touched on is the reason that this moment in history is so beautiful, because this is an issue of genocide.
It
And
is.
it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, what race you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Genocide is genocide. And anybody can stand back and say, fuck all this propaganda, fuck all the religion. We don't care. It's genocide that must be stopped. The people who are doing it must be held responsible. We have to have justice. I think that this is a chance for us to have justice, and it doesn't matter what race you are. Plenty of Jewish people are just as horrified as I am. Right, sitting here, can sit here with me and say, that is awful. It must be stopped. This is awful. Killing children, starving, crimes against children. But, Darren, we have a president. We have a president who's a child rapist, right? The government is fighting to get the files away from, with all of his videos, with all the shit he was doing to children, right? And people are paying to support. How the hell can people continue to support a child rapist. Everywhere that guy goes, people should be looking away from him like, Jesus, right? What kind of, I think this is a world that's overcome with some kind of sludge, some kind of anti justice sludge. And I don't care what your race is. This is the perfect time for people to stand up and say, fuck everything else. Okay. Okay. If your God is genocidal, fuck that God. Right.
Mhm.
If your beliefs are just fuck those beliefs. If you're if you're some kind of fucking skinhead and you got fucking genocide, you love genocide, you fuck bag. No, you're not part. You're not part of the humanity that wants to protect those children. And it's this is the perfect time in history for us to stand up and to speak freely. I think about that.
Me too. There's a complex array of systems, we might call them, processes that are dead inside, that aren't human, that capture our people and sort of deploy them in service of their mutation, their propagation, their dominance, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of just, from one perspective, right, they suck up human populations and then deploy them as agents of like obliteration of everything that's alive, what I call omnicide,
Uh,
right? Because
uh,
another thing we don't realize is that the horrors that the humans commit in war don't just land on the humans. They land on the living places, on the history and future of life on Earth, on
mm,
the soul of all beings of our world, on the spirit of the mothers, right?
nice.
These are abject violations, and they must never be overlooked or apologized for somehow or justified. There is no justification for atrocity.
Yeah.
None,
Yeah.
ever, you know.
Yeah, and we had that spirit in our past. We've had it, little sparks of that throughout history, and humans can somehow get to the point that they're like, no, this is bad, and we'll choose justice and rightness over the tyranny of greed and you know,
Hatred.
yeah, there was a sex scandal in Athens that resulted in a switch in power and toward democratic governance. And in that, it was a contest over a boy lover,
Hmm.
right? That was causing the tyrant a lot of problems. And this ultimately, the people saw what happened, and they saw what they call hubris, which you and I translate in English when they translate this in these contexts. They translate it as sexual abuse. Sexual abuse. So even the earliest form of democracy was fighting against a powerful, wealthy insurgency that was taking power and wealth from the people, power and resources from the people. And it's the same monist entity that just takes over a person. It's why they can interview people about Israel and they can talk about it. And I can talk about Israel because I lived there. And I feel I have a stake in its history.
Hmm.
And I can tell you for a fact the things that they say in Israel now that get through the media, those things are amazing. Things that I would never have dreamt when I was a child that another human being would say, especially a human being whose grandparents had the same spirit applied to them. It was, to me, it's the ultimate hypocrisy. And it really does. I mean, you can't tolerate this. You can't tolerate this. If just like Nazism, if America had allowed Hitler to take over the entire all of Europe, um, we knew that it's going to spread like a disease. It's going to spread, and we don't know that now. We're watching it happen now, and on a grand level, and we're not doing anything about it. We're just allowing our tax dollars to go to fund what is probably ultimately going to be the worst genocide in human history, because this is not going to end there. It's not going to end. Now that the
Oh,
genie is out of the bottle,
yep.
it's going to spread.
You know, I feel very deeply the plight of the world and the living places and the animals and the plants and all the living beings here. I am not merely human. None of us are. Our lives float on the lives of myriads of other beings, right? And I think also there's a thread in your work that appeals to my own awareness and understanding and orbits ideas like burning off our mortality, right? Like as if we acquire, when I listen to Maria Marigu, the Greek mystagogue, who leads people in Greece, right? Brilliant scholar in her own right, talk about the purpose of the mystery rites, right? It's very similar to this burning off of the humanity or the mortality, right? The
Mortality, right? The fear of
mortalness.
death. You're ending the fear of death. Yeah.
Yes, and she speaks of the awareness that gaining a human body is like gaining a shell. Like this word, I'm not a Greek scholar, so, but like the word ceremony and cemetery, sema, right? There's this,
Yeah.
and
Same.
also, yeah, and also ceramic, right? Like this is a kind of a trap for our souls. Our souls can be understood in a way to die into our humanity from some perspectives, and thus must be resurrected within that humanity. What do you make of this?
I think it's common. You know, people talk about reincarnation and Pythagoras. That becomes a popular topic and all that kind of stuff. But when you're just saturating yourself with Greek thought, ancient Greek thought, it doesn't. The whole concept of the humanity is the vessel. That's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Humanity as the instrument is even deeper. I don't think we see it. If you could see what I've seen, you wouldn't you wouldn't have these questions. Is what I'm gonna keep telling people. If you could just see it, stuff, right? Um, the use of the human body, like nobody knows. You can ask any classes today, whether they're involved with the mystery, so trying to examine on an archaeological basis, on a literary basis, doesn't matter. None of them are going to know this, that the human body is that place, that temple, that sacred inner chamber, place within that produces the concoction, the water of life. That individual body is a producer. That's the thing that you see on the pharmacological side that the scholars have so ignored. And it's for that reason that we don't know what a Christ is, because all of this terminology is coming out of the same industry. It's all of the same Bronze Age Mycenaean drug manufacturing. That's everything, right? Shut up with the calling it witches and bullshit. Stop that. That's our stupid monist view. Stop,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, that mystery is the container. And not only that, but there's a this is one that usually throws people. There's a sexual element of both Christing and the mystery that
Mm-hmm.
people really haven't figured out because it's been cut out. So modern scholars will tend to talk about the mystery as if it's totally asexual.
Hmm.
And we know that that's not the case. I can show you the drugs that they're using, that they're Christing throughout the PGM. It's a very much sexual mystery is very much cannot be separated. Just like you can't take the drugs out of it, you can't take the music. Sex, music, and the drugs cannot be taken out of the mystery. You cannot have Jesus without the sex, the music, and the drugs. When he's taken his kids out to the park at 4 a.m., what are they doing? They're singing. They're singing the very same hymns that they're using in the mystery operations. Why are they going out so late? Because this is a Dawnbringer's procedure. This is a Dawnbringer's procedure. All of this stuff is in the text. All of it's part of the mystery, but we don't put it together. We don't. Nobody studies the drugs anymore. Nobody studies the stuff. So
I'm not sure study itself would be sufficient.
yeah.
You experienced a fucking revelation, a cascade of revelations. And that's not merely an academic experience. And this is part of why ordinary academics and so forth, they're not going to understand you. Right? They don't have that revelation. They don't have that. You, as far as I can tell, just from watching how you are in your mind and in your concerns, it's very clear you've been taken outside the fucking cage. You have seen things and been shown things that scholars are not going to understand, Ammon.
Okay, let me say though, Darren, let me use Jeffrey Henderson, who's the Loeb Classical Library's editor. Big Harvard series. Jeffrey Henderson met me at a conference, came up to me after my paper and said, amazingly grand job. We talked, and later through dinner, through faculty, stuff like that. Jeffrey Henderson would not want to affirm what I was saying on Danny Jones, that Jesus was involved with blowjobbery, with the ischurgia, it's what they call it in ancient Greek. So he didn't want to step forward, although he's published on it in his Immaculate Muse, showing that it is exactly what I am saying. I could have used him as a source. He still doesn't want to come forward, despite the fact that he knows that all I'm doing is bringing the Greek sources, right? So let me say it this way. Let me reframe what you asked by beginning my answer this way. Look, academia respects the fuck out of me because I just bring them sources that none of them read, right? And bam, I hit them in places where it doesn't feel good. I'm hitting them in Christianity. Nobody in classics wants to get drawn. Do you know the politics at universities? Nobody wants to get drawn into that. Absolutely nobody. But if they go into public, like Bart Ehrman did, and then try to translate publicly and goof up and look bad, right? Academia knows damn well I am not bullshitting. Now, what you are asking is there a level, a level beyond, a level of native? Have you gone native? Right? Some people would say, yeah. Some people would say, yeah. Well, I personally, nothing's admissible, right? So,
um, I've listened to many unique minds who have traversed academic paths. And those of them who did not succumb to the inveterate infection with gate-kept in like an academic industry that is primarily seeking cash from donors and silences controversial voices and lies about archaeology, history, language itself, philosophy. The present situation in the academy, even though I'm far outside it, is monumentally toxic. The scions of power in the academy, they're not interested in education or discovery or insight. They're interested in institutionalizing a series of narratives. And anyone who comes against those narratives mostly gets ejected,
Yeah.
right?
And you're for your audience, you're not just whistling Dixie. Darren's not just whistling Dixie because you can prove this by just going yourself to a classics conference. They've got them all over the world. And you can go to, say, for example, a European classics conference and just pick. There'll be 100 papers delivered by 100 different professors. You go in there and you just pick 5 or 6 of them, spend the day in some panels. And my God, man, even the classicists will tell you, oh, yeah, shh, it's true. It's true what he's saying. It's crap. The level of performance is crap. Why is it? It's not at the level of the art or the skill with the philology. It's the fact that they are passing around canned ideology that they want you to, hey, you do this too. If you don't do this, maybe your position is going to be, you're not in the group and right. So it's compared to the conferences I went to in molecular biology, it's a complete and total difference.
Yes.
It's people can afford to be lazy when all they have to do is pass around a pre-canned notion. They really don't have to do the research. And people get comfortable, and professors of classics get comfortable. Jeffrey Henderson is comfortable. He doesn't want to come out. He knows I'm right. He's sitting there probably just a little bit tickled, right? Knowing that I'm probing for the blowjob of Jesus. Who's given Jesus a blowjob? Where is it? What text? What's he doing with his ejaculate? He's giving it to the kids. What? Right? Jeffrey Henderson cannot come out. He's got to sit there and say, I don't know. Even though he published that in the book years ago, he published that. He published what that act is. Ischrugia. What is it? He published it. So it's because it's in Aristophanes. It's straight up. So
There are probably unknown to you even. There are traditions of this kind of activity that this is not the kind of thing that I want to talk deeply about. It's too controversial even for me. But there are traditions of this kind of activity that go back extremely far into human history in tribes in Africa, for example, that we have no real written record of. And I think very few people realize that among the monist and the colonizing peoples, women and children are fucking property,
right, right.
right? I had someone say this to me here in San Francisco. I went to visit. We were going to do some singing at a rabbi's house, young rabbi. I won't name him. And I knew a little bit about Hebrew. I knew some kind of surprising things about Hebrew. And so I made a few comments, and the women were like, "How did you know? How could you possibly know that about Hebrew?" Right. And so, because the women were a little bit impressed, and I wasn't trying to be seductive or anything, I was just having fun with people, right? He took me aside. This is in 2023, and he said to me, and I don't want to cast aspersions on any people. I'm just talking about an experience I had. To be clear, I revere all beings, right? He said, "You realize, don't you, that those women are my property, just like if they were a table or a cow."
Oh God, now he's a douche. Now he's a douche. Can you
This is in
imagine?
modernity.
How
This
can you
is
think?
today.
How could you think something like that? How could you think you could own a person, or that you could somehow have mastery? Is this just something that the human soul has to fight itself out of all the time?
Well,
And
again,
second,
it's this.
who the fuck marries somebody like that anyway? I mean, Jesus, don't you?
Again, though, there's a bunch of things that I think moderns very rarely realize, and whether or not the things that you say, whatever degree of truth or falsehood may accrue to the things that you say, right? I cannot adjudicate that. That's not my job. But whatever that degree is, it's absolutely clear that among the colonizing peoples and the monists, who are these two things are very tightly linked, right? Monism and
Right,
colonization, right?
right,
You have to notice that. That's blatantly obvious everywhere.
right. Yeah, please notice that.
Genocide, the abuse of children, the subjugation of women, the capture of the educational systems, the canned narratives that must not be objected to or defied under pain of destruction, right? It's obvious. Perhaps it's a little unfortunate, but it's also obvious why men like those you mentioned are not going to come against the narrative structures in which they are bound. For one thing, their careers will be destroyed, and it doesn't end there. For people who aggressively attack the dominant narratives, bad things happen, right? Like to their families, to their name, to their history, to their vocations, right? So that's super dangerous. We can hope that some people might be courageous enough to come forward and say, like, this is a bunch of lying, right? But if it's going to mean that you're destroyed, you got to have a lot of cojones there to try to do something like that.
Imagine you're born into that world, though, that you just described. That's a world of corruption. It's a world of darkness, and it's a world where there's no respect for like the basic human decency. You wouldn't shoot a little kid in the face. You wouldn't shoot anybody in the face, but you especially wouldn't shoot a little kid because that's not right.
No, the
That has
children
to
are
be dealt
sacred.
with. That has to be dealt with. If you, as a human being, can live with that and be afraid, because most people are afraid of the consequences, right? Of standing up. Resistance. When you stand up against the Nazis, they're gonna pull you in a back alley and shoot you sometime, right? They're eventually gonna catch up with you. But the fact is, resistance for justice is so basic to our humanity that who would want to live in a world where they're not going to shoot you in the face? Who would want it? Do you really want to live in compliance with child murderers and child rapists?
Is
Is
that
that
even being
the
alive? That's not even being alive. That's like a kind of false life.
yeah.
And, we have many new forms of genocide in our time, right? The corporations poison the food, right?
Give us all
The
cancer.
the pharmacological industry, big pharma and stuff. This is not medicine. This is something else where it isn't medicine. Sometimes it is. There are places where it is. So like there's the slow pervasive genocide of poisoning the environment and the minds and hearts of the people, failing to educate them adequately, not teaching them the arts of rhetoric or ancient languages, or what it means to
Music.
be human, or how to forge a mind that is brilliant and insightful and playful and creative together. All of these things, and then you have the abject physical genocide that we see when nations go batshit out of whatever resemblance of a mind they might have otherwise had.
What do you think about the positive, though? Look at what it does. It shows us who God is. I mean, we've been living 2,000 years under this fucking God, right? He's been there. He may not have had power for 4 or 5 centuries, but we've been living under his influence for 2,000 years, right? And I wouldn't put it beyond that because Philo Judaeus, the first century BC, Judean guy in Alexandria, he is explaining the book of Genesis based on the Greek. He's quoting it in Greek, and then he explains very carefully what each of the Greek terms means, not as a translation,
Mm-hmm.
but as the original. that we cannot live in a world where the lies like that, like um, Hebrew is a sacred language. There was this kingdom of David. There was no kingdom of David. First of all, David was genocidal in your story, but there was no kingdom. It does not exist. Archaeologically, it does not exist. I can promise you. There's nothing that's been found. None of this. There's everything is Disneyland that you're looking at. And we have a sea of evidence. We have a sea of evidence in beautiful ancient Greek. And people have lied to you. People have lied to you. Not all languages created equal. Right? Societies do not develop based upon their natural resources. They develop based upon their language.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of advancement that they make toward doing things like making hospitals, efficient hospitals, that between that and blowing those hospitals up, there's some sort of balance. There's some sort of progression over time. And you have been lied to by so many people. It's just, I can't emphasize enough. When I realized I'd been reading Greek for like 20 years, right? And I realized, oh my God, the people on the religious side, they don't even know their own sources. They don't even know their own text. They say Jesus, Jesus, but they don't even know. You know how shocking it is for them to find out he was arrested with a naked kid? That's shocking to them. They don't even believe that at first, right? When you tell them that, I, I'm sorry, I'm on a tear again, but you're letting it out by talking about it's the crimes against the children that caused the democracy to wake up and to say, fuck you. Fuck you to all these rich bastards who want to take everything and murder us all. Fuck you.
It's terrifying to imagine that what goes on in our country, in the United States, could even be compared to democracy. This is an active agentic kleptocracy. This is stealing from the history and future of our people and our world under the guise of democracy, which it does not even resemble. This is the thing that I wish it could be possible for the common people to understand. This is not a democracy. This is not a republic. This is a cluster fork of competing diseases masquerading as noble, humane, intelligent, or powerful.
Yeah. I got news for you. You're being farmed, and they're gonna rape your ass one of these days. You know what I mean?
No, we're just being fracked, right? Our attention is being fracked. Our privacy is being fracked. Our identities are being fracked.
Yeah.
Our creativity is being fracked,
Yes.
right? What the corporations would do to the water table, they will do to your family.
Right. Exactly.
Right? These are not your friends.
No.
Right?
No.
And they're not human.
No.
These are not human structures. These are the structures of the war machine, the genocides, and the money grubbing, like the commodity chasing aspect of what happens to humans when our humanity departs and cash money fills the vacuum in our souls. Greed stains your soul.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, which they're supposed to know. Right? What the fuck? You monism loving sons of bitches. You're supposed to know the whole greed thing. Jesus was quoting a very popular and well established philosophical sentiment that greed is directly, and I can't tell you how many authors I've read who said this. Greed is directly antagonistic to democracy. It's directly antagonistic to it. So it's not that you can't afford as a democracy to look by while greed simmers. You have to cut it out right away, or it'll take over your democracy. And look, now we have literally the embodiment of greed. I mean, this is one thing that this is why prophets are prophets, because they show you the reality that's slapping you in the face, but you can't see it because you're high on some crack from what your culture is giving you, you know, and we're in a place to look at that mirror now. This is what gets me so excited. People can see who God is. This God that we've lived with for 2,000 years, he's fucking genocidal. He's genocidal. This is terrible.
So I did not. It actually never occurred to me one time. There's some exceptions, but recently, is it Gad Barnea? I can't remember precisely his name, but
Yeah.
he talks about the history of Yahwism and stuff like
Yeah. Okay.
this
Yeah.
very compellingly, right? And it never occurred to me that Yahweh wasn't God, right? That Yahweh was not the God of God, like the God, the monist God. Yahweh was Yao and Yah and Yahoo and Yahweh. This is a entity. It's not God,
Yeah.
right?
And it took over. This entity
Yeah.
took over around 3rd century BC is when you start seeing this awful, horrific, genocidal son of a bitch appearing on the scene. And all of a sudden, people, what I don't get, Darren, is the reality is way more interesting. If I were Jewish, I would be glad to know that my ancestors were not what those rabbis said they were. My ancestors came from Crete and Sparta, and they migrated around the Mediterranean, and they wanted the education. And do you know what language my ancestors, if I'm Jewish, do you know what language they spoke? It was not Hebrew, because Hebrew did
It's
not
Greek.
exist. It
Yeah.
was Greek.
Yeah.
It was Greek.
Yeah.
There is so much soul that the Jewish people could reap themselves from what is in those Greek texts. And they ignore it. The rabbis, of course, will tell you, no, 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 that's not what happened. What happened is there's this language, Hebrew, and it's our people who were delivered from the blah, blah, and the hoo-ha, and none of that shit is accurate historically. So it's almost like the rabbis, priests, and preachers will deprive their own people of their reality in order to maintain control in the process of consuming, in the process of eating up the world, right? You've got to maintain something up here that will cause the people to imagine trying to convince. I lived in Israel. I can tell you, there were people I knew who were there that I cannot imagine how enraged they are at what the Israeli government and the Israeli military is doing.
Oh yeah.
However, I know that a lot of the people that I knew there are the ones shooting kids in the face. I know that too. And it makes me fucking sick. It
Me
makes me
too.
sick that that's there. And how do you get that? You start with Hebrew. You plug in a falsity. This land was promised to you because you're special. Now pick up a gun and blow that kid's brains out. Right? Oh God, what is more Nazi than modern day Israel? Nothing. They outdid they
Yeah.
outworked the Nazis. I can say that because it's your show and I can't get in trouble.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to take the heat for that. But no, I mean, all right. So there's a couple of topics I want to touch on, and one of them is I've heard you speak very compellingly about the actual necessities of a democracy, that you don't elect wealthy people, that they not be married, that they not have um, uh, duplicitous dealings with war corporations, etc. Tell us a little bit, give us a glimpse of what an actual democracy requires.
Yeah, you required radical representation, first of all, radical representation. And no districts, no, it's a 1-to-1 vote. This is straight up justice, right? Each juror votes, they get 1 vote per person, count the whole thing up, simple majority wins, right? That's what you need in your system, but you got no brakes for the greed. And so, like when Solon, who himself was extremely wealthy, when he is helping to set up the democracy, he's the first thing he's doing is introducing financial reforms. You can't, a congressman or congressman or congresswoman should not be able to receive more than an average year's wage for their job. They cannot have any other income from the outside, because that will corrupt the system. It'll cause their decision to change from what their neighborhood is saying to whoever's giving them the money. It's the same thing we have now, and people yell about it. The problem is we're not putting, what you have to do is you have to put people in jail. And there's no crime system now there's no legal system or set of laws that govern all of these donations to these people. Every donation to you as a congressman should be considered bribery.
Yeah, it is bribery.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand it any other way.
Right.
So,
right.
As I understood it, perhaps rather clumsily, there's a great necessity for the separation of commerce and government. And you need the people in the roles in the government to be free of conflict of interest in a way that goes far beyond what we would usually imagine, like in a very significant way. Even to be married could be a problem, right?
Possibly, if you wanted to go that far, possibly. In trying to ensure the integrity, all you're doing is you're saying this representative will represent.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
Right.
It's very simple, right? And you could clean out Congress, you could clean out the Senate and the House. You could take them, just say everybody's fired, and tomorrow we're going to hire janitors from the schools in every district. Those janitors are going to come up, they're going to get a year's salary for a year. And what they have to do is they have to keep their nose clean, right? If you see them take a nickel, if they take a nickel, it doesn't matter. They're out. They go to prison, and then the next person comes up. It's more like a lottery system.
Right.
Than it is.
Or even it somewhat resembles a sorties in a way, yeah?
And it's more like your duty. When you are serving as a senator or a congressman, it's your duty as a citizen of the United States not to take money, not to be corrupt, but to follow the law and to uphold the Constitution. That whole idea of a Constitution, that's all Greek, right? Yeah. We don't realize it, but our entire system is based upon this language that we no longer read anymore. We no longer read. It's not a part of our database.
Well, I mean, let's not have too high an expectation. Vast, I had the privilege of being asked to teach junior college in the late 80s, teaching an English class, right? These are mostly white, upper middle class kids from mainly good homes. They had B to B plus averages coming out of high school. Out of 90 kids in 3 classes, 4 of them could produce a sentence in English. 2 of them could compose a paragraph. That was in 1987, Ammon. What do you suppose the situation is now? You're saying, like, they're not reading the Greek. No, they're not reading the English.
Right.
They cannot. Now, I'm not saying, look, humans are a topology and there are mountains and valleys, but the valleys are deep and broad and the mountains are rare, right? So there were a few students who could produce a sentence in English in writing. But what the hell happened to the educational systems in our nation to produce a genocide of human creativity and intelligence and inspiration? The capacity just to speak eloquently in your own language or to write a sentence. Yeah. So you're like, well, they're not reading Greek. You're asking worms to fly, right?
That's the one thing that I've really learned from YouTube. It's the one thing that I've really learned, that for every person out there who's like you're describing, and they are out there, there's another one who's nerd as fuck.
Oh yeah.
And those are the people, I guess that's my lesson. Those are the people that you're talking to,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to free those minds that are rational and can think and put together the evidence and say, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can question this. You're not trying to approach the ones who are very mercenarily holding on to their monism, and it makes them very comfortable. And that's not to say that people who are religious are all dumb. It's not, or uneducated.
No.
It's not. That's not what I mean. It seems stupid though for Christians to embrace something that logically leads to genocide. It seems just like, this age should be the end of Christianity and Judaism, right? Not Jews and Christians.
Mhm.
It should
Right.
be the end of Judaism and Christianity, because people should see what ultimately Christianity helps to produce through Judaism. There was a woman standing, there was a journalist standing with a woman in front of the mosque over where the supposed temple was of Solomon that was never built, and we have no record of. And she's a Christian from the States, and she is saying, oh God, it's time for Jesus to return, and the way that he will return is when this temple is rebuilt. So we have to get rid of all the Palestinians out of Jerusalem. We have to get rid of them and then rebuild the temple. And she says only then will Jesus come back. And what she's not telling the journalist is that when Jesus returns, he's going to kill all those Jews. So wait a minute, you have one genocidal system working within another genocidal system, namely Judaism, right? You have the Judaism there that what are they thinking? Going to build the third temple and take all the land that was promised us because we're special and fuck everybody else. And then you have the Christianity working on the back of that. Yeah. They're going to kill everybody, take all the land. And when they do that, Jesus is going to come and murder them all. Right?
No, I mean, you'd have a hard time producing a situation like this as a bad science fiction story.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
worse than
Yeah.
bad science fiction, much
Yeah.
worse, and actually actively lethal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to speak to something we talked about in our casual discussion the other day. And I think you have a little bit of responsibility for the problem, some of the problem that you're facing here, because you will often play three sides against the middle and then stand right in the middle, right? So that's not going to go well, right? That
I
is
love
not
the
going to go well.
storm.
Yeah, it's not going to go well, and people are going to judge you, and they're going to attack you, and they're going to do all kinds of things. But I want to ask you, and I want you to speak clearly about your ethics. What does integrity mean to you? I have a couple of other questions, but let's start with that. What is integrity as a human being, as a father, as a teacher, and as a scholar?
Yeah. There are people out there who hear what I say and it affects them. It affects the way they look at the world. It affects the way they look at their religion, and it causes them to question. Integrity is all about giving those people exact realities, showing them the text, the evidence. Look, this is there. My integrity is all wrapped up in giving people the real evidence and not wavering, not making anything up. The day that I make something up, the day I'm done. Well, and I should be done, because that's what a teacher is supposed to do. A teacher is there to do no harm, first of all, right? Just like a doctor, you're there to do no harm. And second of all, you are there to support the growth, the nourishment of that soul, that mind. And you cannot do things that will stunt that growth, damage that growth. And teachers who do take that dark path, those are not, they really weren't, they're not keeping their oath. They're not keeping the spirit of what a teacher is. So integrity to me is accuracy. I hate to make it that simple, but I must be accurate 100% of the time. So if I'm seeing something in my research and I want to jump to a conclusion because it fits the puzzle in, if I don't have enough evidence up here, I say, look, you can't do that until you can show people. This is the straight up, because everybody has to know that I am not here to make money. I am not here to influence you. I'm not here to change your life or to bring you some sort of, goodie in a package of some sort, right? I'm not here to give you a religion either. And I'm not here to satisfy you sexually, right? I'm not here for that. I'm here to give you the evidence. You make the fucking decisions. Jesus was arrested in a public park with a naked kid. He was crucified with other people who were child sex traffickers. You make the decision, right? And I have a great faith in humanity's underlying drive for justice that, this crap won't stand.
What are your sexual ethics? Say something to this. So I want to actually let me reframe this a little bit. Do you support the sexualization of children?
Absolutely 100% not.
Yeah.
Um
And what
the
about teenagers?
the people who are in people who are in a state of vulnerability need protection. This is why the Virgin on the Hill is our great symbol in democracy, because we protect the vulnerable.
Yes.
Right? What do
Yes.
those children need? You're talking about their sexualization. What do those children need? They need nourishment. They need growth. They need advancement. They need development, right? They don't need to be harmed. They don't need hubris. So, what are my sexual ethics? Those are my sexual ethics. There's no word for homosexuality in ancient Greek. We have a gorgeous language that has capacity that far outshines any of her contemporaries, and yet she has no word for homosexual, right?
Is that true, Ammon? There's
Very
no.
true. Very true. There's no word. Kenneth Dover wrote a whole book about it. Greek homosexuality, it's called. And in the introduction, in the very opening, he has to tell you, there is no word homosexual in ancient Greek, right?
There's something interesting about this that I want to touch on briefly, which is the humans generally invent, and I'll speak just about English. How you doing? You doing okay? What's going on?
No, I need to get a drink real quick. Hold that.
Okay,
Hold
yeah,
that
let's
question.
yeah, let's
Give me
take a
give
break.
me 1 second here.
Yeah, take a break. Take 5.
Thanks. I walk. Okay, you were talking about sex, you pervert. What'd you want to know?
Yeah, a lot of things. So, many of the people who have critical views against you, and let's be clear, you're about the most provocative human being walking on legs these days, or one of them.
Okay,
Right.
what would they want to hear? Let's give
So,
it to
so
them.
first of all,
Let's be
there's a
straight up.
problem here that I want to clear up
Go ahead.
about you,
Yes.
because in private conversation, you've made very clear what your ethics are and how crucial it is for you to maintain a stance of integrity and ethical awareness around sexuality, around protecting young people, around protecting teenagers. The problem is that you talk about what was going on in ancient Greece and, other cultures at these times, and people then transfer that and suppose that you're saying you approve of this. You see the problem?
Yes, these are the same people who say I must be using all sorts of hallucinogens and I must have children in my basement somewhere. It's the same people. Yeah, I need to talk about the things that happened in antiquity so that you can have the reality that you have. I can't change them, right? If Jesus was arrested with a naked kid, I have to tell people that. I can't change it. I can't edit out or censor my sources. That my integrity is to those sources, and you can't alter the evidence, the data. And it turns out there's a lot of stuff about kids and
Yeah.
about inappropriate sexual relations and famous people who did stuff that you think, oh God, how could you possibly do that? So when I bring it up, it attracts, there's a class of perverts who I really think they are perverted, who will say, oh, well, because you're talking about this, it means you must be this, because I don't have any way to counter what you're saying. So I'm going to turn you into the evil that you're talking about.
Ad
And,
hominem.
that's just the way it's the way it is. The stupid thing for them is all it does is promote discussion. All people are going to want to hear about then is, well, wait, there was a naked kid with Jesus. So am I doing that? Absolutely. Right. I found out early on that's the way this game is played. This whole gadfly thing, it's the way
Mhm.
it's played. Feed them exactly what they're looking for and slap them in the face with the dildo of reality. They're going to come back. Right. But some of them will be freed. Some of them will be freed, and their rational minds will say, wait a minute, this he's a 37-year classicist. He's doing his classical philology. What? And he's saying there's a problem with your translation. Very simple things like, what is a Christ? Anybody can understand what a Christ is, right? That's why we have them on the run. Nobody was able to put up a resistance against me. Nobody, not the biblical scholars, not the classicists, nobody. So as soon as I had a professor tell me that once, he said it's going to take 10 years for them to accept this, for classics to accept what you're saying, to look over the evidence and to say, yeah, he's not just blowing smoke. So I'm waiting.
In our discussions, you made it clear to me that in your heart and your spirit and your work, there must be sexual integrity, the protection of the students, the protection of the youth, no sexual congress between teachers and students, all of these things. And I think no one has made this clear. And this is something that I want to clarify. Your ethics are very different from what people suppose based on your presentations.
Correct. Correct. And people will say things about sexual harassment. And we went to court and fought that for 3 years, only to have St. Mary's have to come out and admit that there was never a sexual harassment case brought against me. So for me, it was vindication, but it was very personal. Right, that we got that far in the case was vindication. But people are going to, you'll notice that a lot of people have put out that accusation that I'm some sort of sexual deviant, right? What happens is when you come out with a factoid like Jesus was involved in Christing, which was part of a sex act, and that he was doing it on little kids. When you come out with something like that, the resistance is going to be fierce because you're undercutting everything that the person has come to believe in, everything. So I learned right away that you deal with it. If you're innocent, look, I'm sitting here. If I am an innocent human being, I have nothing to fear. Right? You can bring accusations against me. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you want. Put it slander all you want out there. I'm innocent and nobody can, you're not going to find a victim who comes forward and says, oh God, the things that he did to me. Right? You're not going to find that. You're going to find students. If you start looking through students, and I've been waiting for the day when somebody does this. For example, if I go on tour in July and August with Junius and somebody there gets a little bit trigger happy, right? And I end up going the way of that we all end up going. People should go back and talk to my students. People should talk to my students and find out for yourselves. And you're going to be shocked. I got hired based upon student recommendations. That never happens. That never happens. You don't hire somebody based on what his students are saying. They have to have a research component. They have to have a history of teaching. You look over their history of teaching, what they can teach, and what you expect they're going to teach for your department, right? You don't look at recommendations are not, they're just not valuable. But in my case, they were. They were the reason that I got hired because of what the students were saying. So I've always drawn a line, whether I've taught high school girls, I taught an all girl high school, right? Ooh, that should set your dirty little minds going, right? But the same standard that I use there, I apply to college students and everything because you can't, your student teacher relationship is sacred and you don't want to damage the potential for growth in the person that you're working with. So you don't get into a relationship with it. You just don't. It's not going to work, right? You're going to stop being a teacher to that person and become a lover. And you can't do that. It just doesn't. You lose the edge. I'm telling you. Professors who do that. And I knew one. I knew a professor who married his student, a very talented, incredibly talented human being who made history in what he studied. And he married one of his students. And you can't do that. You basically sacrifice that student. And a good teacher is not willing to do that. So the students are supposed to stand on your shoulders. They're supposed to push the field even further forward. Right. So, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right on. I wanted to clarify this because in private conversation with you, we discuss similar issues. And this is crucial for people to understand. Integrity, virtue, honesty, these are values that however you may fail to be perfect in them, you have a powerful ethical imperative that you must not deviate from.
Yeah.
And there's another aspect of this, which is, let's see if I can find this here. So I just wanted to clarify these matters and ask you specifically where you stand on them. Oh, yeah, I know what it is. You have lived in relative poverty for nearly your entire adult life. You do not accept donations. You do not make large sums of money. I tried to buy you a microphone, right? And you were like, no, man, we can't do that. Like your integrity around anything that could corrupt your path is quite profound. It may not be perfect. None of us are perfect, but this is something that is crucially important to you. And I think it's very I think it's an imperative that we clarify this publicly. So that's something that I want everyone to understand about you, right?
Yeah.
You cleaned the toilets at St. Mary's,
Yeah.
right? To try to make a little extra money. What were they paying you? 15 grand a year or something like this,
Right.
right?
You can't have a payment for an apartment and pay your groceries on that
Yeah,
kind of a
you're
salary.
raising
And they
two
knew that.
children. Yeah,
They knew that, right? So, and
yeah,
I'm raising two children by myself. So
yeah.
it's, I didn't have much of a choice. I did what I could and I took whatever jobs that I delivered pizza here in Taos. I lived in a cabin up in the mountains that had no plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't have been rented, right? But that's all I could get, and it had no, it was basically charity from a friend,
Right.
letting me stay there, and I bathed and took my kids to what they call
Jim.
that? It's not a YMCA, a youth center,
Uh-huh.
youth center, so we could all get showers, where the local people who had no money could come and pay $2 for a shower. You know what I mean? Because we had no plumbing. I used to take a shit in a toilet that I had to carry out to the hippie shit stack, and dump it out there and go into town and get fresh water. Right? I've had my fair share of poverty, and I can tell you for a fact, it is important. It is important that you struggle. I don't know why. I don't know like what the big picture is. And maybe Kirk Hammett was right when he said that struggle is an absolute necessity in the art. And that's why we get crappy pop music, is because there is no struggle. And I look at my life with these constant struggle against poverty as a lesson, as an education. And I've seen people who have the look of wealth, and I've rubbed shoulders with people who are offended at my poverty. And I think I understand. Most of us are there, right? You think about it, you say, "Oh, you're poor, Ammon." I am, but most of us are.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I think this is part of the human experience, and we should have a giant group of impoverished people rise up against the bullshit and say, "Look, at least we have justice, assholes." Right? And, take it back. I'll teach them all Greek. I'll give them all Greek. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that in my attempt to understand your path and your integrity, there's strong evidence for your integrity around issues of sexual ethics, the ethics of teaching. I know that you get, how shall we put this? You get images, people email you things that are sexual and
People are
so forth.
dirty.
Yeah.
People are dirty. God damn it! That's something YouTube has taught me. People will send you pictures of intimate stuff that I didn't request. That I'm sorry if you must take mojo. Please go take it somewhere else because I didn't ask for it. But at the same time, I realize people are just trying to be romantic in their own way. You know what I mean? And I don't. I don't. I don't harbor any grudges to people who do stuff like that, right?
But you also don't seek it and you don't celebrate it.
No, no, no. I don't people are going to be people, and people are different, and they do different kind of things, and you can't be an asshole and just say, "Well, okay, you sent me some bikini pics. Please don't do that." You know, just okay, come on, who gives a shit, right? It's the people who send stuff like, I've noticed. I mean, it's a learning experience for me because there's a group of people. It's not a class, it's like a cultural group of people who throw this intense desire at you, right? This intense erotic desire that turns very quickly into, "I want to kill you." Right? It's the I want to fuck you, or I want to kill you people. Right? And you can see those. It's like a psychology among humans. And I can tell you within how much time it's going to take. Oh, this one's going to pop in about 2 weeks. Right? No, I'm serious. If
Yeah.
I don't answer this one, and I'm not going to,
Uh-huh.
right? Because I'm not supposed to do harm.
Right.
Right? I'm not supposed to make things worse.
Yeah.
And those people they're just being people. Right?
Right.
Don't
Right.
you can't hate people because they're sexual or they get horny. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be good times and places to get horny. And I think, if I make somebody, there was a woman who was interviewing me and had an orgasm while she was interviewing me. And the photographer there caught it. And not in photography, but he was witness to the whole thing. And I thought it was absolutely gorgeously fantastic. a verbal orgasm, an orgasm that was caused by the whatever tone I was hitting, whatever thing I was doing was caused this reaction. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. But that's people are going to do different things. You can't put somebody down for reacting in a way that's so natural and good, like good for the species that we do that. Otherwise, nobody's going to be propagating. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
you know, definitely.
Now, as I understand it, you had been having a bit of a conversation with Aphrodite about the secret of the spontaneous orgasm just prior to this event.
You always want to blame me, don't you? You couldn't be satisfied. You couldn't be satisfied with, look what happened, right? You had to point out that it very much seems like a setup, right? I told you.
Well, no, that wasn't my intent, Ammon. That wasn't my intent. But you do explore outside the cages that we are usually found inhabiting. And sometimes that creates a little beauty, a little trouble, a little intoxication. Come on, right?
Right. And sometimes it brings up somebody from prison saying, I'm going to come and kill you because you're entering my dreams and you're doing XYZ. Right. So you have to have a,
but but my friend, you are like three kinds of weird monster at the same time. You are a psychopomp, you are a rhapsode, you are an enthusiast, you are an indicter of monists. These are the charges against you, Mr. Hillman. You are the most provocative classicist currently walking on legs.
Corrupter of youth.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Because the bullshit we're usually told, that's not corruption. What's corruption is when you violate the dominant narratives. That's corruption.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well seen. Do you see why I like that first article so much? Because you have a way to verbalize the precise image of what's going on. So I like that. I like that a lot. I'm sorry I didn't get back with you.
Oh, that's fine, man. There's no, you can forget about that. We're all good. And really, the thing, I was just worried that perhaps something went wrong in our first interview and you didn't want to continue. So it's nice to know that that wasn't the case.
Right.
But
I was just trying to respect Danny. That's all.
Yeah,
I was just trying to respect Danny's wishes. Because I asked him, I said, can I do another one, without, what do you think? And he said, no, don't. No, because whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters to me is, look, in the whole process, I'm finding out something. I do one thing. And if I do that well, other people have other things they do and they work together. And there's this, for lack for, I don't want to be like an 80s. I don't want to be like an 80s business guy on cocaine, but it's the synergy, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's real. And I'm just learning that through YouTube. And, for me, it's been a big discovery process. And one of the things I've discovered is that people are good. There are good people out there.
Yeah.
There are intelligent, artsy, crafty, people who could change the future. Everybody's pissed about, artificial intelligence and all this. We have all the talent in the pool that we have as human beings that we could really do something spectacular. Instead, we're putting people into cages and starving them and blowing their heads off. And and it's it's time for the Antichrist thing. I don't believe that. I see it. And it's only this resistance to it. Like, I get death threats. I get death threats. I know everybody gets death threats who has any sort of public profile. I get that. It's just a sign of the times. But my death threats are very specific, and you can tell they're from a specific group. And that same group is the group that's been swatting me. That same group. There's a lot of hatred out there. And People want what I am saying to stop. So
Hmm.
if something should ever happen to me that I'm in those circumstances, know that I found the perfect moment. I found that place of ultimate resistance, right? That place where I could only want to be in a world full of fucking child rapists, murderers, genocidists, people who don't give a shit about anything but their own goddamn aggrandizement. In that world, I want to be on that edge where somebody turns my brain into that gorgeous, lovely pink mist of doom. You know what I mean? That's where I want to be.
Hmm.
So let them come on and say whatever they're going to say. They always say the same, crazy bullshit. And let's go. Let's duke it out,
This is something we also spoke of in our private conversation, where, for many of us throughout much of our lives, the primary motivation is preserve my life, preserve my life, preserve my life,
Yeah.
right? But you have this incredible series of problems that arises when your life is just a bunch of relationships with boxes, rectangles, screens, and cages, right? What kind of a life is that to preserve? And as particularly, I think, as men, um, eventually we come to a place where we may realize that the actual move now is to give my life for something that matters, right? And this is how the military captures young men, right? Because it proposes a way to give their life
Yeah.
for something that matters.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure uh, that the military proposition is the best one or even a good one. In some cases, perhaps. But generally, those structures are capturing and weaponizing a feature of our humanity that should be used for beauty and virtue, for integrity, for mutual protection and preservation, for mutual concern, and for our health and well-being and development, not for the killing of people in other countries or dropping bombs. I mean, one of the questions, occasionally a question will rise in my mind that very much surprises me. And one of my favorite questions, and perhaps you might care to respond to this, just with whatever first comes to mind. What is the opposite of a bomb?
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. And I have no answer because isn't that amazing? There is no is there an opposite? I don't think there is.
I can think of a couple.
What do you come up with?
Well, the first is a mother.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Right. A mother is the
Okay.
opposite of a bomb.
Yeah. Cause she's producing kids instead of
And
killing them. Right?
loving and caring for them and
Yeah.
protecting them and nourishing them and all of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
another is like a team of humans who have decided to synergize their intelligence and abilities for the sake of all beings,
Oh,
to
that's nice.
heal, to heal,
Yeah.
to educate, to lift, to resurrect our spirit here in this strange incarnation in modernity. Yeah.
Yeah. A museum. You want to bring
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
museum,
Yeah.
which is for that. Yeah. But it's a protective. Yeah. Thank. Don't we have it as our duty to take on the genocide? Don't we have, shouldn't the genociders be the ultimate enemy of the United States? Can we make that switch? If the answer to injustice is justice, we're going to have to apply it. We can't just stop and say, oops, we stepped in and now we're going to step out, right? Because that stain will stain. Everybody will know for the
Mhm.
rest of time that the United States bought a genocide, right? That we were taken over by a group of people with religious interests in extremism and destroying a specific group of people, right? The
Yeah.
unpromised, the uncultivated, the unpromised. Everybody will know the United States funded that, and it was only because of our weaponry that they were able to do that. So, don't we
Yeah, I mean, the
deserve?
arms manufacturers are among the worst of the diseases that
Yeah,
afflict our species and our world.
yeah. Even was President Eisenhower, right? He saw that
He
shit coming.
warned us, yeah, the
Yeah,
prison military industrial complex, if you don't rein that in, they're going to own your children.
Right.
Right. He didn't say it in exactly those words. I'm paraphrasing kind of
Right.
wildly, but yeah, he
Yeah.
knew. Yeah, he knew.
Imagine everything that we gained from World War II in the eyes of the world. We were the beacon of freedom and justice. And now, what are we going to be known for? A school full of Iranian schoolgirls blown to hell. I mean, that's what we're going to be known for. Are you really going to go into the military thinking that those actions are going to give your life some sort of honor? That they're going to make your death some sort of, and people will say, how dare you say that? The people who have died in the killing of the children in the school in Iran, I got news for you. They're in hell. They're in a place where they're being tortured for what they fucking did. And
Mm,
see, this is the thing. The Greeks saw nemesis. They
mm,
saw pure justice coming to you. It doesn't matter what your status is, your fucking country that you live. It doesn't matter.
right.
Justice is justice. To the dude who pushed the button on the ship that sent that tomahawk out, he has the same guilt. Do you think what you're just going to excuse him? That's what the Nazis want. I was just following orders. I was
Right.
just following orders. I didn't give a I didn't want this to happen. I was just following orders. No, fuck you. The stain remains. Your soul is stained. And you cannot just throw off responsibility. Oh, Jesus died for me. Forget about it. I don't have to worry about it at all. I'm a proud military motherfucker. I push the buttons. I kill the children. No, that's not how the universe works out. It's not. So it's our duty. It's our duty to show people we're all guilty, man. We're all guilty. We've all paid for that. And we're going to have to answer to that. And I know that sounds like a preacher, right? It
Well,
sounds like some kind of preacher,
you do
but
preach, right? This is what I mean when I say you're a rhapsode. And by the way, when I saw you like singing about the ancient Greek and stuff in the way that you do, and you use your gaze, something we got to talk about your gaze, right? You use your
don't,
gaze,
don't,
man.
don't.
And when I saw you, I was like, wow, this isn't just a rhapsode like an actor or a musician. This is a rhapsode about the ancient Greek, where we got the idea of rhapsodes from,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
that kind of lit me up, man. That
yeah.
did kind of like, and it still does, you know. Although you can be a little dark and pretty vengeful at times, you
Yeah,
know.
which why wouldn't you be? I mean, we don't need Superman now. We need Batman. We need somebody who's not worthy. It's much to Chewy's chagrin because she loves that dastardly, handsomely gorgeous man who plays Man of Steel. But Henry, but you need somebody, the person who protects the song that is written on the skin that hangs in the tree, right? This person is famous throughout the world, right? And everybody knows you can't get near the dragon. The dragon will kill you, right? You'll be dead. That's all there is to it. The guardianship of that song is what is everything. It's what motivates me. It's what pushes me. It's the only beauty in this world. A position where one can be completely irresistible, where one can face the darkness of death itself and not be afraid. The dragon, above all others, involved with the mystery of her voice, that dragon has to be have the most integrity and be the most courageous.
Mm,
They have to be. And
mm,
that's what I hope and aspire just to be a fraction of. If I can just be a fraction of that ancient value and the dragon, then I've done something right. And if that means a bullet to the brain, then God damn it, give it to me. Right. But I'm getting out there and I'm doing my job. Right. So yeah, let's do it. How many there's going to be betting on whether or not we can survive, right? But it's punk too, right? You remember the punk in the 80s and whatnot?
oh yeah.
Yeah. What power it had and how it had how it had a flair for social change and injustice for
Mhm.
highlighting injustice. I think there's something very natural in the music that helps defend us.
I agree. Okay, so there are two important questions that I definitely want to get to, and then we can continue or not as the spirit moves us.
Okay.
When you say "Hail Satan," who is this Satan in your mind and spirit?
Oh God, he is a handsome devil. He's he's got a weakness. That's the thing. You can dance with the devil as long as you know his weakness, right?
Mm,
His and I know his weakness, and it's all over the evidence what his weakness is and the way that he acts. So he's predictably powerful, right? As an entity, he's the ruler of everything around you, the cosmos, the organization, and the structure. This is not Yahoo's realm, right? If it were, we wouldn't have Eros. We wouldn't have that liberty, right? We would be bound. And so that's part of the Bacchic satanic. When people realize that there's something called a Bacchic satanic chorus, this is an ancient idea. They don't understand. They perceive for the first time that there is a unity, that Satan is Bacchus. They understand that, right? If they're looking at it that way in antiquity, and they're embracing it as Satan is that Bacchic ecstasy,
mm,
right? That sexual music that is naturally programmed into us, whether we're turtles or people, right? The basic programming of the universe is coming through that satanic Bacchic chorus. Your mind is the way it is because of an invisible satanic chorus. Okay. And what the hell does that mean? It means that I can manipulate you. It means that I can bring you to places that you don't necessarily want to go, but places that are necessary for you to be purged.
mm.
That's what I am doing here. I'm purging you. I'm holding up the mirror, right? That's the Bacchic mentality, right? We see that reflected in literature and hymns and everything. That's the Bacchic mentality. So once you understand that and you kind of grasp the physics of the invisible, when I was really studying hard as a graduate student in classics, I was around professors of physics. They shared the department with the history of pharmacy department, and in the department of pharmacy, and well, I'd share the toilets with them stuff and just talk to the scientists and whatnot. And as I'm doing that, I am studying in the Greek the invisible components of the cosmos, things that keep everything working, right? While I'm curiously asking about and the math these guys use, and oh God, I just can't keep up with it. It's totally nonsense to me. But it's fun to listen to them try to describe the universe at the same time as seeing the actual keys that these Greeks are saying, who are also studying the universe, are saying, hey, you may want to pay attention to this. And it makes gorgeous, gorgeous sense, and it works. You're talking about my gaze, right? My very famously, my students at St. Mary's the seminarians had a strange conception that if they looked into my eyes, that it would do something to them, and not in a good way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also use my gaze,
Yeah.
not precisely in the same way that you do,
Yeah.
but I'm well aware of something that resembles what I clumsily understand the Greeks to have understood, which is the gaze is not passive. It
No.
reaches out, it touches with a spirit, the spirit that orients the purpose of making contact with seeing and what is
Right.
seen. But
Right.
I need to, I hope to understand something that I find confusing. Where does this term Satan come from? And surely this is a fairly recent idea or concept, at least as the Christians have counterfeited it. I don't know what the right word is. So when you say "Hail Satan," who is it you are hailing? Is it Lucifera? Tell me who. How?
Yeah.
Why do you use that name instead of an older name? Help me understand what's going on here.
Yeah, because one thing that I'm putting forward that I think will take some time for people to look at, but should be provable pretty quickly, is that Satan and Saturn in Greek are related.
Mm-hmm.
And the Saturnus that is there is when we derotify it, is becoming Satan. So, and derotification, that removal of the row, is common, right? Especially in the environment of the new. So, in is the in letter, right? The final letter. So,
Uh-huh.
um, look, if Saturnian worship is the same as the Bacchic satanic chorus, if you are creating an age of freedom and the purpose of your religious association is to enhance and promote freedom, liberty, so that your festivals like the Saturnalia promote one thing: slaves don't have to be slaves for the day. Masters, you have to serve your slaves for the day. You have to learn what it is to be a slave. That's what the lesson of the Saturnalia is. And it gives those slaves a feeling, of that freedom for a little bit. That's what Bacchic worship does. It's all about freedom. The ecstasy of Bacchic worship is just a tool for freedom. And that freedom is so dangerous, it extends even to governments. So that Rome was afraid of the freedom that the Bacchic satanic chorus produced. And what is it? It's a golden age. The Saturnian age is an age where people are liberated from that entity that wants to enslave them, use them, rape them, kill them.
Mm.
So we get our concept of the savior. We're getting that through this Saturnian Bacchic chorus.
Mm.
That's why they could say a satanic Bacchic chorus, because to them it was the Saturnian. So people are going to find that out. It's Darren. It doesn't take a lot of, now that we have tools that we have like the TLG and everything. Classics research is going to rapidly explode. And one of my own students did a program involving an artificial intelligence now that is translated. He just translated all of Galen's anecdotes.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and I'm reading the translation now. We're going to finesse it so
Mm-hmm.
that the AI learns. The
Right.
AI learns the translation skill is the best that I can give it, and then maybe the translation pro AI can then stand on my shoulders and go beyond and figure out the finest nuance of the
Mm.
Greek. And next thing you know, we've got all of these sources that are talking about Christing. They're all readable. Here, look, you can read them in English,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So who is the devil?
Yeah. Oh God.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Who
help
is
me
the
out.
devil?
Help me
Yeah.
understand what you see and know when you think or speak of this.
Yeah. No, we all know who the devil is. The devil is the one who stood in God's face and said, "Fuck you, and fuck your rules. You're a shitty God. Go fuck yourself. I'm gonna be honest with the lady because he's got a weakness for her, right? He's got a weakness. He doesn't want her to be abused.
Subjugated.
He
Yeah.
doesn't want the hubris. Right? That's who the devil
Because
is.
we hear the opposite thing. The devil is all hubris. God is all beauty and innocence.
Right.
But if we're talking about Yahoo,
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about God.
Okay.
Is the
Yeah.
problem.
So you're more Gnostic, right? You're thinking like the Gnostics are, well,
It's
maybe.
it's very complex. I mean, I have some direct experience of these matters, and it's not my place here today to elucidate that, right? And it's very not like how humans are inclined to think at all.
Mm.
Um, but I always supposed that Yahweh was the divine being.
Mm.
And only recently, in listening to histories of Yahwism and stuff, did it become very obviously clear to me that this is not the case.
Right.
Right? This is a story,
Right.
right, that was articulated and re-articulated and concocted and composed over long periods of time in specific branches of humanity, and is very confusing.
And openly genocidal, openly
Yeah,
genocidal. You know, when you read the Septuagint, which is what we call the Old Testament, right?
right.
Or you can call it the Torah, including the
Sure. Pentateuch.
Ketuvim, the prophets, and everything like that, and the histories, the books of wisdom. All of that is in Greek, right? And I can go and read it, and I can read ancient Judean um, commentaries on that Greek. I can
Mm-hmm.
look at that Greek through the Greek lens, and I can tell you from all the Greek that I've read over 36, 37 years, however long it is now, I have never, I've never come across the genocide. A cultural movement that produces a religion bent on genocide as the ultimate goal is not something you see coming about in Greek literature. You see the exact opposite movement away from it. Whoever is influencing the writing of the Old Testament is doing it in a way to contradict a stream of freedom, a Saturnian stream throughout the Greek speaking world. There's a movement against anything that would be like genocide. That's why when I read it in the Septuagint, it strikes me
Mm-hmm.
as out of place. It's completely out of place. It's like it was an implanted. It's like somebody went in and said, "Look, all we have to do is we have to get it inside the computer and we have to rewrite part of its programming. And once we rewrite this little tiny section, the whole thing will perform differently. It'll
Yep.
perform just like we want it to."
Yep.
And that's what you can see when you're reading that genocidal bent in the Septuagint. You're like, oh wow, this is very much out of place, right?
No, it's like putting poison in water. The water quenches your thirst unless there's poison in it.
Right, right.
Right.
Good, yeah,
Right. The
I like
water is
that.
great. You bathe in it, you give it to your children unless there's poison in it.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Now the whole water is poisoned. Now
Yeah,
what water means has been changed.
right. Now it's
Right.
death. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Amazing. It's like you switch its polarity, and
Yes.
all of a sudden, you've got this monster, this text that will justify the shooting of children in the face. And the Israelis are all sucking it in. They're all yelling, Amalek, 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 right?
Well,
You don't,
let's be clear, those Israelis who are doing that
correct, correct, who are
are
on
doing
the, yeah,
that.
who
Yes.
are
Not those
coming
are
out,
not all Israelis by a
right.
long
And
shot.
there have got to be a certain percentage of the Israeli population who is absolutely horrified by
Absolutely.
what's going on. And
Anyone who's still human.
yeah,
I mean, not to be judgmental, but that's just there are
no, I
some
think
things
you
that are
have to
so
be.
abysmally wrong that if you
Yeah,
can't see that that's wrong, you
right.
can't see. You
Yeah,
just
you have the Nuremberg obligation to call these people exactly what they are. There must be some percentage of Israelis who don't go. Like, I know that there are guys who have gone to prison because they won't go into the military. They're saying, nope, I won't go do my service. Absolutely not. So they put them in the prison. I know there are some people like that. But
I actually
everything,
know a few brilliant Israelis who've worked and risked their lives to
yeah,
turn the tide in this
yeah.
situation. I know
See,
personally a few
yeah,
of them, and they are
yeah.
brilliant, amazing, spirited human beings that I respect and admire the beauty and the power of their courage and their mission.
And
Right?
that's why it has nothing to do with race,
It doesn't.
right? Because you can see they're Jewish too, but
Yeah.
they're part of the good.
So
They won't
this goes
stop
to
the
anyone. Yeah, this I just want to clarify something. This addresses anyone who might conceive of calling you an anti-Semite. There's
right.
nothing like that going on with you. I know I've watched you,
Yeah.
right? I know
I've
that's
had
not what's happening.
I
You're an
had to
anti-genocide.
right, right.
Yeah,
I've known too many people that I know, although they're Jewish, they would never. They're just people, and
yeah.
their background, their ethnic background, doesn't force them to want to be genocidal. I
And
know.
I want to clarify something else. There are people in every walk of life who will capitalize on the suffering of others to promote their own wealth and power and so forth in every race on earth.
Right.
In our country, this is rampant, right? So this is everywhere, and it's not because of some specific race. This
Right,
isn't
or
a
gender,
race.
it doesn't matter,
Yeah, this isn't a
male or
race
female.
issue. This is a species issue
Yeah, exactly.
with Homo
E-
sapiens.
Exactly. That's why we've got to stand outside of this nation state idea and just say, look, all humans should, most of us don't want to kill children. So let's have some fucking global declaration of human dignity.
Yeah,
You can't fuck or kill children. How's that?
yeah. Let's do that. Or
Yeah.
anyone. How about we just stop slaughtering living beings altogether? I mean,
Yeah.
what's wrong with that? I was
It would be
listening to
nice.
Sadhguru the other day, and he was talking about the world and how complex even the smallest part of nature is. And he said something very profound. If you cannot create it, do not destroy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's nice.
It's beautiful.
That's
Right?
an artist. That sounds like an artist to me. Somebody
Yeah.
an
I mean, it's
artist would say.
so obvious. He's like,
Yeah.
this isn't a complex thing. This is the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Right? If you cannot create the beauty of the earth and the world and the living beings, do not destroy it. Right?
Yeah.
Don't break what you can't make.
Right. I think there's a problem though, because once the cancer is started, you can't do anything but directly cut it out. You've got to try the people who have been in charge. You've got to bring those people to justice. If
Mm.
we just overlook it and say, "Oh, we're going to cut Israel's funding way back," and we're just, we don't look at what happened. If we do that, it's still going to be there. It's
I
working,
agree. I agree
right?
to a degree. There are some other options, though. Um, the most intelligent forms of war, they don't go directly at the enemy. They go at what nourishes the enemy forces, right? They go at this pivot, their root, right? And if you can capture that root, there are many forms of war that orbit this aspect, right? Because sometimes a force is so entrenched culturally, socially, and historically that if you come at it directly, it blossoms, right? So sometimes we need the kind of insight and intelligence that gives us the capacity to steal the foundation of the thing away from it, and then it just collapses, right? Direct conflict is sometimes important.
If I get in direct conflict with monism, then I've done my job. I keep telling Chewy, if this thing gets me killed, then you will have done exactly what you were supposed to do. Um,
Yes, but also if it beautifies your soul.
right. No, well,
Doesn't
right.
have
Yeah.
to get you killed for you to succeed, is what I'm
No,
trying to
but
say.
you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
Because somebody has to confront the enemy. Somebody has
Yeah.
to be there to say, no, this is where it stops.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you out and I'm going to show the world what you are. And I don't care what your threats are. I
I
don't
mean,
care
this is
what you
what
do.
the military of an enlightened nation would probably be doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. When you have an active insurrection, a cancer that's eating out your constitution, right? That military is everything. They're supposed to defend the Constitution
Yeah.
against enemies, foreign and
And
domestic,
domestic.
right?
Ding, 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 ding.
Right,
And domestic,
right,
people. And this
right.
doesn't mean go around pointing fingers at everyone you think might be the enemy because they don't think like you.
No,
That's not what it means. It
no,
means composing a chorus of the people that can see and make intelligent and beautiful, humane decisions. And then the military becomes the body of enaction of those decisions, right?
right.
That
When they
chorus concept. Sorry, go ahead.
when they have already committed um, their our own people and resources to killing people that were really not justified in killing. I mean, there's no justification for what they're doing. When you have committed your military to that, you've corrupted them, but it's
Yeah,
only because their leaders didn't stand up. The guy with
right.
the guy with the fleet, where was the admiral? Well, he's not supposed to follow orders that are contrary to basic values that we have as human beings. He's not.
Yeah, there's another thing that I want to call out here that's really important. When you see some nation's military attacking civilians, that is fundamentally off the
Yeah,
table. And when you
yeah.
start to see that happening, you better understand that your children and families are going to be
Are next.
next.
Yeah, they're next. And
Right.
how do you and I know that? Because that's history. Because you've
Yeah.
looked at some history
Yeah.
and you said, oh, this is what happens. Now, if we get bullshit and if we get a fake history, we get a history that's been altered, we can't make those decisions. We can't have the moral edge and say, oh, wait a minute, look, they did this in the past and it did not end up well. Right.
Right.
So I applaud you. And maybe that's why I trust your work is because when it comes down to it, you're about the evidence and you want to look at the evidence, you want to see.
It's not
And
just yes, that's true, the evidence, but it's the spirit,
mm,
right? What is the true spirit of our people and what
yeah,
captures and counterfeits that
yeah,
and weaponizes it against our histories and futures and hopes and dreams and the urgencies that we bring to human birth. If you talk to almost any child, right, they will say the most beautiful things you have ever heard.
yeah,
They
yeah,
will tell
yeah,
you, don't kill the people,
right,
don't slaughter the
right,
animals.
right,
Why are you
yeah,
doing these horrible things? You
yeah,
have to stop,
yeah,
right? Almost any child will tell you this. Most of the mothers and any sane father will say, like, this is fundamentally inexcusable,
yeah,
right? This is,
yeah,
we were not born for this. We were born for something beautiful and brilliant to become together, right?
yeah. What about that generation, the next upcoming generation of Israelis who are watching? They're just kids now, and they're watching their relatives go out and slaughter people, right? And they're filled with this propaganda of hate. What kind of generation are they going to produce? They're going to make this one look like they're completely merciless. I mean, like they're
Let's hope
completely
not.
normal.
Yeah, let's hope
They
not.
people keep saying, well, don't the Israelis have the right to defend themselves? Nobody has the right to commit genocide. That's the
Right.
way it
That's
is.
not defending
Right.
yourself.
That's not defending yourself. It's
Yeah.
genocide.
Yeah.
Right. So I hear the explanations from Israeli mouths, right? That they're going public. They're saying it on podcasts. They're saying it on news. They're saying, oh, well, the reason we can justify killing those children is because they're going to grow up to do the same thing. So it's almost like they have wired themselves, right? The training has wired themselves. And I'm just thinking to myself, when I was 20, do you think I would have dated somebody like this when I was living in Israel? Would I have ever dated somebody who came up to me and said, you know what, killing kids is okay, right? My God, do you realize what the rest of the world is looking at you, seeing you for the monster that you have become? Doesn't that wake you up? What the fuck is wrong with Israelis that they're not looking at the world's reaction saying, oh, maybe we're doing something wrong? No, they're just doubling down, right? Pushing forward. What the fuck? Do they have a minority of people who follow justice that can overthrow the government? and sweep out all the pedos. I mean, Jesus is, that's the only way they're going to redeem themselves. But that's neither here nor there. And
These
I've got no say.
actions, I think we too commonly think about human factions, and we don't realize that actions like this, they change what it means to be human
Yeah,
forever.
exactly.
That stain,
Yeah,
it lands on every human heart, right? You're
exactly.
harming every human being who has a heart or a spirit or loves other people. You're
Yeah,
hurting them, right?
yeah,
You may be slaughtering people in Gaza, but you're staining the meaning of our species and our history and our
yeah,
future, right? This is
exactly.
inexcusable and has
It
to
is.
come to an end.
It
Has
is.
to come to an end.
Make it come to an end, God damn it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Right? Oh God.
Not necessarily by any means necessary, because we don't want to become uglier than what we oppose.
No, right? That's the thing. You've got to sit back and say, well, what is justice in these circumstances,
Yeah,
right?
and what is the most beautiful route to the and powerful route to
Yeah.
that justice? These are questions that matter,
Yeah.
that
And
we
you know
must
what?
pursue together.
It's good that we're pursuing questions like that because that's better than pursuing, your fucking tea time on the golf course, because, right, right. All right. I'm going to
Okay,
go
now
for my,
Ammon, I just need to know: have you
yes.
ever golfed?
I tried once, but I was so incredibly bored. I wasn't terrible or good, but I was so incredibly bored. I was looking for books in the bushes. I was like, "Is there a book or something out here to read?" Do you golf? I don't mean to offend you.
I don't want to shame anybody who loves golf. I just
Yeah,
had to ask you because this is a question no one has asked you, right?
yeah,
I just
right.
needed to know, like, can you sustain the horror and the boredom of golfing? Right. And
No,
I
I
am not surprised to
can't.
hear that you did not pass that Rubicon.
Right.
Right. That gauntlet, you fell before that gauntlet. Yeah.
Right. It's pretty much just putting a ball in a hole, dude. Okay, after one hole, I'm good. Right?
Right. Right. Now, I
Right.
have to admit, I like miniature golf.
Yeah.
Miniature
Yeah.
golf is kind of fun.
Because you can do it with the kids and they can laugh and it's not
Yeah. And
serious.
it's
You know what I mean?
also, there's all these little contraptions, and it's sort of like a Rube Goldberg, contraption thing. Yeah. I have fun miniature golfing, but it's been many years since I've done so. Okay. So there's a couple more things I want to get at.
Okay.
Who is the dead girl? How did you meet her?
We're going to have to make that part of number
Next.
two. Yeah,
Okay.
number two. I've got to get out before my 5:15, which Chewy extend to 5:30, please, and send them a notice that we'll start at 5:30. I'm gonna have to get out and get some more fresh air. And you have an open invitation anytime. So take advantage of it and just let me know in the morning and say,
Okay.
I want to finish that interview. But look, you made it perfect. You invoked the muse of healing, and look at that. So thank you. I'm going to go sustain myself and do it. What the hell? Look, if I had to have one piece of advice, it's in your stay in shape when you're in your 30s and 40s, so that
Mm,
when your 50s get there, you're not. I put too much. I don't know about you. Do you exercise on a regular basis?
yeah.
Do you have like something you do? Like, do you bike or do you walk or do you?
Yeah. I mean, I like to run. I don't do that all the time these days. I'll leave out why. I try to get in 10 miles a day of walking. And thankfully, when I was younger, I learned Tai Chi. Tai Chi is
Ah,
really profound for your heart health, especially for older people.
okay.
Right. So Tai
See, I
Chi,
I wish I was as smart as you, and I wish I'd have kept exercising. Did you do all that stuff in your 30s and 40s?
yeah, but I was also a smoker.
Yeah, you gotta, there's, there's
I mean, mostly just out of what? Loneliness and confusion. Right. I
yeah,
mean, what we'll talk someday about the nature of addiction. Amen.
yes.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
Darren.
giving
Thank
me
you.
this time today when you were, having a rough morning and stuff. And also, Chewy, you
Yeah.
are the stuff, man. Chewy, your work. I we're gonna talk about this, right?
Good,
Because
good.
Chewy and the Muses, like
Right.
there's an association here, but
Definitely,
we'll
definitely,
get
and
to that soon.
education and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thanks for the patience with me. I appreciate it, and keep me informed, Darren. It's an honor.
Honor for me as well, Ammon. May your health flourish and effloresce. May you heal and breathe and continue loving and teaching.
I'm gonna think about that while I'm walking. Thank you,
Right
and
on.
and it's an honor. It's a real honor.
Same here. Thank you, Ammon. Peace for
Mhm.
now.
Peace.